Hello, this is Fear Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast. Today we have game number 2 between these two players, TSLHyun and MilleniumAdelscott. If you have not seen game number 1, go ahead and check that out. But if you have, I'm going to go ahead and introduce these players. Spawning down here in the bottom right hand corner of Ohana, we have the orange Protoss player. He's a French Protoss player, and he is currently down one game against his opponent. He is known as the Gateway Protoss, and his name is Adelscott, representing Team Millennium. And his opponent, currently up 1-0 in this best of 5 series, spawning in the top left-hand corner of Ohana as the Red Zerg. He is a Korean Code A level Zerg, and we're going to have to see how he's going to follow up in this game. His name is TSLHyun, and he is a very strong player, looking to be in a very comfortable 1-0 lead in this game, or series. Now, just looking back on that last game, it was a very questionable, I have to say, it really came down to the questionable decision-making of Adelscott. Oh my god, he's doing this again. In the last game, we saw him not go for that Forge Fast Expand, as you oftentimes see most Protoss players go for, and then even not going for the wall off at the ramp, as you oftentimes see Protoss players at least go for. And once again, he is going for that gateway right over by that Nexus that is, in a way, a little bit more economic, as that probe that you send out to go build those buildings is not really losing much mining time. But oh man, this really came back to haunt him in game number 1, and I'm really curious to see if TSLHyun is going to be doing something very similar. Looks like no, he's not right now. Not going for that spawning pool first build. Not going for that, well, he is going for the extractor before spawning pool, but going for that hatchery first, especially on a long map like this. It seems like he does feel comfortable getting away with this, but I'm really curious what he's going to be thinking once he sees, hey, there's no wall off going down at my opponent's expansion, and once he pokes up and sees there's no gateway wall off once again, I'm really curious if he's going to go for that massive Zergling count once again. And we see actually just looking to be the exact same build coming out of Adelscott. Still spending the Chrono Boost over on his Nexus, which is indicative he's not going to be doing something super aggressive. And yeah, I guess the one advantage that this style can have is if your opponent has been so used to that Forge Fast Extending style, then, you know, they might accidentally play a little bit too greedy. But we're talking about a Code A Korean level player over here. TSLHyun is definitely not going to be unversed in playing against a gateway expansion, but I don't know, it's really interesting decision making coming out of Adelscott. Now, one thing that it will mean, of course, again, is that he will be able to put on a little bit of aggression with these initial gateway units, but I'm not sure if he's going to be doing that, considering he's going for those 2 sentries first, not getting out a stalker, which is a little bit more indicative of putting on some of that aggression. There we see again that expansion going down, and Hyun knows about this. He knows exactly what's going on, or at least I'm sure he can speculate exactly what is going on. And in the meanwhile, let's see how Hyun's reacting. It looks like he's just making a couple of drones, still mining a little bit of gas as he is going for that adrenal glands. Those Zergling speed is so important. But yeah, it looks like he's just not going to be putting on a whole lot of early pressure right now. Just going to continue droning up. Doesn't want to go for the same build as last game, although I have to say it seemed to work out very successfully. Although I do have to admit that Adelscott did end up losing that game, partially due to the fact that he did end up missing a critical force field on the ramp, and likely not going to be doing that again in this game, as I'm sure Hyun does not want to take a chance that his opponent will do that one more time, especially since Adelscott, even though he did end up losing that game quite handily in the last game anyways, I'm sure that he knows Adelscott is a very, very good player. And one actually kind of cool thing to note, considering how many gateways are going down at this point, we are seeing 5 gateways. Adelscott is actually known as the Gateway Protoss, and this is just because he is known for not really getting a whole lot of tech very early on. Honestly, he actually sticks around on just gateway tech for much longer than almost any other Protoss out there, so we're going to have to see if he's going to stay true to that name in this game, as it looks like he's just warping in a lot of sentries. Looks like he actually kind of wants to do a very well-known and kind of old style of just a Zealot Sentry push potentially, but with no Forge, that is going to mean he's going to be lacking that good old +1 upgrade that makes it so much easier to deal with these Zerglings. Now we do see a couple of these Zerglings tagging the Zelnaga Watchtower. Ooh, some nice Force Fields catching those Zerglings. That is going to shut down a little bit of that map vision, even though you might be thinking, hey, 2 Force Fields are not really worth 4 Zerglings. Shutting down that map vision is going to be very critical, and of course, Hyun still is only producing off of 2 hatcheries, so losing those larvae is going to be a little bit painful. Of course, we do see 2 Spine Crawlers already going down, and now Adelscott knows there's no 3rd expansion down quite yet. Around the 7-minute 40-second mark, we do see a Proxy Pylon going down, and some Zerglings getting some nice Stalker surrounds, but really not being able to do the damage they wanted to do, not actually able to even break down past those shields. And now we do see a couple, or just I guess 1 Zergling left over, but now we see this massive push coming in, and oh my god, the roaches are starting to pop. There's gonna be 7 more being produced right now, and some good Force Fields are gonna trap any kind of additional roach reinforcements from popping out and be able to save these Spine Crawlers. But now we do see the Spine Crawlers going down. All the sentries are pretty much drained of all of their energy. He's gonna have enough energy for 1 more Force Field, so Force Field probably that ramp just to stop any additional reinforcements from the main. And we do see the drones coming out and an additional wave of Stalkers coming in, and now the drones doing a good amount of damage to those sentries. It's gonna stop any additional Force Fields from being able to be thrown down once those sentries regenerate their energy. But we do see that the drone count is dwindling quite rapidly, as now he's down to just 25 drones, and even though the roaches are coming out, they are being able to push back all of these Stalkers. Adelscott sitting in a very healthy economic position, sitting on 2 bases against his 2-base opponent Zerg. And honestly, when a Protoss player is sitting on a higher worker count, a reasonably sized army, and honestly a pretty good position in terms of workers, the Protoss player is going to feel pretty gosh darn comfortable, especially since, oh my god, it looks like Lair Tech is finished up, but to what end? There is not enough workers to really support any kind of Lair Tech, as even though these 2 gas geysers, the 3rd and 4th gas geysers, have already been taken, what's he going to do with them? He really just cannot afford to start putting 6 drones. That's 6 drones into these gas geysers. That's almost 1/5 of his economy. And now we do see Adelscott being a little bit aggressive right now, considering how much smaller his army is compared to this Roach army. And he has to be very careful not to let these Stalkers get caught off guard. His Galileo reconstitution is going to be finishing up, and once that happens, that's going to spell the end of the aggression that Adelscott can put on against those roaches without being caught completely off guard, and basically having those roaches just kind of nuzzle in and start hugging those poor little Stalkers that just are, they're like the houses of I guess StarCraft. They hate hugs, they hate showing emotion and all that kind of stuff. They just want strippers. But unfortunately, these roaches are not strippers, and they're going to be trying to come in. But there we do see some great Force Fields going down and blocking off quite a few of those roaches from coming in. And it's definitely going to give Adelscott the great advantage he needs in terms of positioning to fend off of that roach aggression. TSLHyun looking to be in a very, very poor position, down to 20 workers, and where does he doesn't have any tech really to speak of, and again, not really able to mine from these 3rd and 4th gas geysers. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and take a look. Adelscott getting out that observer is going to be very important, as he does not know if his opponent is going for that good old burrow play. So he definitely wants to have that. Does have that Forge, researching that +1 weapons upgrade. As we can see over here in the production tab, the roaches really don't have any upgrade. Oh, actually, no, they, I take it back. They actually have the +1 range upgrade. Guess it went down without me noticing. But we do see still no real Lair Tech coming out. And even though Hyun is trying to drone up a little bit just to catch up, oh man, he's in such a rough position. Even committing to these Spine Crawlers in fear of the attack that Adelscott could be doing in the near future. But again, Adelscott can kind of just sit back. He has a higher work count. He could probably even just safely take a 3rd at this point. And one thing that I will say is Adelscott is also kind of known as a bit of a passive player. He did end up doing some of that early aggression, which honestly was kind of mandatory considering he was going for that gateway expansion. And if he had allowed Hyun to go for that early 3rd base, kind of uncontested, he would have been in a very, very terrible position. Now we do see Hyun kind of moving out with these roaches again, just pumping additional roaches, putting down more Spine Crawlers. Oh my god, Hyun is so in the dark right now, it seems like. He does have actually this Overseer over here, but I guess Actually, I'm really curious of what is prompting this decision making from Hyun to throw down so many of these spine crawlers instead of just investing in that third expansion. As we can even see, Adelscott knows his opponent is not taking a third. He's going to feel comfortable sitting on those two bases and just getting out those immortals, which are going to be so effective against that roach-only composition from Hyun. Now, we do see the infestation pit going down in the main over here, so that is going to help out a little bit, especially against this army composition, and is completely lacking any kind of Colossus play. But still, it's going to be very, very rough for Hyun to try and engage this army. Now we do see Hyun positioning his army kind of interestingly over at the supposed fourth expansion for Adelscott. But, oh man, Adelscott moving out. Looks like he might actually be able to pinch off this army of Hyun. Hyun has nowhere to go. The destructible rocks have, actually, there is a little bit of a gap that he can run out of, but I'm not sure if he's going to have enough time to circumvent this army. Now we do see one immortal does get picked off as some nice splitting up from Hyun, actually sending a couple of those roaches and zerglings a one-way, and meanwhile the rest of the roaches go the other way, but Adelscott knows exactly what's up. He's sending out this section of the army to cut off these roaches, and in the meanwhile, the rest of the army does manage to get out, but still, this is still a substantial number of roaches and zerglings to be losing, and now we do see a couple of zerglings running straight into the main, being as annoying as possible, but they are completely trapped. There's no hope of them recovering. Meanwhile, that does give the opportunity for these roaches to retreat, but again, oh man, to what end? Oh my god, actually these zerglings are doing a decent amount of damage, killing off a couple of those workers, so definitely kind of nice. Oh my god, when you just look at the supply differential, and you have to remember, roaches are not exactly supply effective, so not only is Hyun down 60 supply, but he's also, sorry, 50 supply, but he's also down 50 supply again with roaches, which are not cost effective. Roaches take up more supply than you'd expect, but look at that giant spine crawler wall. I don't know what Hyun is trying to buy time for. Obviously, these infestors are popping with enough energy for those fungals since he did get that research down. But, oh man, it's just not going to... I mean, to what end? I mean, Adelscott can just basically... Oh my god, we do actually see a counterattack going on over here in the natural of Adelscott, but it's going to be fended off by this one immortal, supposedly, and maybe just one more round of weapons. A bit of miscontrol from Hyun, allowing those roaches to get bottlenecked against that immortal. He's going to feel comfortable just fending all of that off, and with 1-1 upgrades against the, what, it looks like just +1 carapace upgrade zerglings and 1-1 roaches. Oh man, Hyun's looking to be in a very, very terrible position. I'm really curious what he's going to be trying to do to pull this off. He does end up getting that immortal, which is a nice little win for him, but look at how many immortals there still are. There's still 2 more immortals, a massive number of stalkers, and still a healthy number of sentries with full energy. Now, when the heck is there? We finally see that third being taken from Hyun, and with this massive spine crawler wall, he might be able to safely defend it, I hope at least, by planting down all those spine crawlers once his hatchery finally does end up finishing. But oh man, if Adelscott just decides to move out, even getting that blink finish, and now he's going to be able to deal with these zergling counterattacks even more effectively, as we see these zerglings trying to run in, trying to dart around, do all the damage they can, and there is that third actually trying to go up from Adelscott. Is forced to cancel, but it doesn't matter. It looks like Adelscott canceling and just realizing, hey, you know what, I can just go in and kill off my opponent, or at least deny the third. I think this is a nice play, even if he doesn't go for the jugular right now, as this is a massive spine crawler wall. He's definitely going to be able to basically starve out his opponent at this point. I mean, even though there was that nice little zergling counterattack that denied the third from going up, I mean, what can really Hyun do to deny the third for very long from Adelscott? And actually, he does have this observer and blink, so he can actually just blink into the main, do a little bit of harassment that way, but doesn't look like he's going to be opting to do that, just warping in a couple additional units. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Adelscott just go for the jugular push once he maxes out on 200 supply. And we do see a +3 weapons actually going down, so that does mean he's sitting on +2, +1 upgrades. And honestly, I'm just kind of waiting for Adelscott to finish up this game, as you know, it is very, very well played and very smart to do this kind of safe style, especially when you're up against this massive spine crawler wall and a large number of infestors. It is good to play safe to make sure you don't just somehow lose in some crazy way because you really engaged at a poor angle or something. But at the same time, oh man, I feel like you can kind of just at least go into the main with a blink with a section of the Stalkers. I mean, look at how infestor-centric this army is. Only 9 roaches out. It's kind of just those infestors, and oh, looks like the infestors actually moving out since they did get that fungal growth down on those that observer, so that is going to allow them to move out with those infestors. But that is going to mean if Adelscott just decides to move up into the natural of TSLHyun, he's going to be completely unprepared for it. And now we do see the infestors moving out. It's going to maybe try and deny that third, I suppose. But oh man, oh god, Adelscott just has such a big army. I don't think it's going to really work out for him. One thing that Hyun does have going for him, though, is that Adelscott is basically maxed out. So even though that does mean Adelscott, as soon as those infestors lob those infestor Terrans out, as we do see over here, Hyun can just immediately move up. And what can Adelscott do? He does not have the supply to really warp in and defend against this infestor threat, as this might be this really, really weird base trade scenario. And there we see Adelscott moving in from 2 different angles, going to be moving up, and we do see some forces going down as all of those Zerglings are pretty much denied from being able to get in over there. But the Blink Micro back is going to help out a lot against those roaches that are trying to do a little bit of damage. We do see a couple of infestors out over there, but in the meanwhile, we see a massive number of infested Terran being lobbed out everywhere. Oh my god, that's a lot of infested Terran. But at the same time, oh my god, is TSLHyun actually doing an okay job? We do see 13 probes only left on the map. The supply differential is kind of getting narrowed down, and it's very, very close, but still no drones escaping for TSLHyun, and that might actually be the killing blow, considering this is a bit of a base trade situation. And honestly, when you have no drones to go rebuild your hatcheries, you're kind of boned, honestly. There is this extractor here, but what good is it going to do? And actually, with the infested Terrans going to be wearing out before they can actually take out the remaining stuff of MilleniumAdelscott, it looks like MilleniumAdelscott going to be sitting in a very, very comfortable position. And those infestors completely lacking the energy. And there's the GG, well played. Finally, game going to Adelscott, tying up this series 1-1. Go ahead and jump into game number 3, as that was a very long-winded game. I think, honestly, I can't lie to you guys, that game was kind of over a while ago, but we're going to go ahead and jump into game number 3. Thank you so much for your patience. Go ahead and like and subscribe and do all that good stuff. Leave comments below if you have any feedback. That's enough out of that. Game number 3.